Hi, so yeah, my name's Chris, and I work for LSO Discovery, which is the education and community outreach program that the orchestra has. I'm also joined by Cevanne, who is a composer and a performer and a writer who is on one of the schemes that the orchestra runs. And we're going to talk about two projects. So first of all, as Andrew mentioned, I'm going to talk about a project I've been heavily involved in called LSO Play, and then after I've spoken about that for 5 minutes or so, Cevanne is going to talk about Soundhub, which is a program of support for composers across all, well, the whole strata of composition, I suppose, not just orchestral composition, which I suppose is how it fits into what we're talking about here today. So as I said, I'm part of the education department, and as Andrew said, this building is the home of the orchestra's education program. And when it was established 11 years ago now, there was always an intention that while work would happen physically in this space, it would also be a hub that would allow us to disseminate things much further afield. So the people who are benefiting from the work that we do are not just people who can make it here physically in person. They are people who could be anywhere in the world. And it was a lofty aspiration, probably, and we feel like we're just at the point whereby we have the handle over the technology that we have here that allow us to do that. And the specific project that I'm going to talk about today is called LSO Play, which is a web-based project. And this came about after a filming session that the orchestra took part in, or basically it was generated by our record label. We have our own record label. And they were, maybe 3 or 4 years ago now, starting to look to move into video as well as just audio recordings in terms of downloadable sales. So recorded a performance on the Barbican stage of Ravel's Bolero. And this was done by a professional TV crew. It was taken away, it was edited, and it's available to buy from iTunes, etc. But what we thought was interesting was that at the end of the whole process, we were left with the rushes, with the master tapes that included the whole continuous camera angles from the whole performance. And the way in which it was created was a very, at the time, very different way to the way that orchestral music is usually filmed. So actually there were cameramen, manned cameramen, right in amongst the musicians. And after comments from some of our players and from some external people, we realized that actually we had quite a valuable resource in our hands here, which could be used by students and educators and teachers to help learn about different facets and elements of the orchestra. So we talked up this idea for a while, and what eventually evolved is what I'm going to show here today, which is LSO Play. And now I'm hoping it's going to work okay, because I'm on the wireless and it's a bit media intensive. But essentially, we commissioned a design company called Cevanne to create a web interface which allows us to choose how we're going to experience the work. So as you can see here, you've got 4 cameras on the screen at any one time, and the piece will start to play, and you can choose how you want to watch it. And that was what was interesting to us. It was that it was no longer, well, as you can see, the bandwidth clearly is not holding up enough to demonstrate it properly. But the idea that it wouldn't be a passive experience. It's not the same as just watching a video where somebody else has had a curatorial hand over how it's going to, you're going to see it. I think this is probably going to be a bit shaky, but the idea is that for each of the elements of the piece, you can choose the focus of the cameras. And there's this interface that allows you to decide what you are or aren't watching at the time. You can maximize any of the screens at any one time. And our idea was that this would become a resource that could be used for people who are potentially learning these instruments, for teachers who can then use this as a way of demonstrating various things about the construction of music, the construction of the orchestra, and with the idea that then it is also something which holds interest for a general public at large. So the example we always use, this chap here in the top left is our principal conductor, Valery Gergiev. He has a very unique style. If you are a student of conducting, it's probably quite fascinating to be able to spend a whole 15-minute piece watching solely what he is doing and understanding how what he's doing is integrating with the other players of the orchestra. I say, unfortunately, the bandwidth here does not seem to be allowing me to demonstrate it to its full. And then, along with this main experience, we created several media visualizations that give an indication about how the orchestra is laid out, and then various extra resources including video masterclasses with some of the players from the orchestra, guides to the work you're hearing and the life of the composer, as well as resources for teachers. So we have a teacher's resource pack for Key Stage 2 age children, which is the top end of primary school, where they don't have, music isn't a part of the curriculum specifically at that stage. It's taught by, a lot of the time, by generalists. And the idea is that this would be able to support their teaching. So it includes lesson plans and exercises that they can do around this work, which they can then use the videos as part of the main resource to help back that teaching up. We're very happy with the way it's worked out. We were intent on designing a framework rather than something that is just a one hit. So the idea is that we can feed extra performances and extra work into this. And in fact, although it's not working now, you can always go to play.lso.co.uk in your own time to see it. And hopefully by the end of September, there will also be some movements from Berlioz's Symphonie Fantastique, which is going to be the next performance that we intend to program into it. And again, there will be the same supporting materials around that with the idea that it can be taken on and be used in classroom projects. So this is one area of what we're doing within Discovery. I probably have said that my role within the department is to try and use technology to try and further the work that the orchestra is doing. But among the other many programs that we have include programs for support for young instrumentalists, conductors, composers, and one of these schemes is Soundhub, which Cevanne is a participant within, and I'll pass over to her now to tell you more about that.
Great, hello everyone. I've been asked today actually to spend 5 minutes telling you about Soundhub, and if any of you, and I think probably all of you, are music creators, it should be of interest to you because it's a wonderful scheme which is open to all sorts of music. It's established here in LSO St Luke's. It was initiated by LSO and it's run by the participants, of which there are 60, I think, now. And those participants are divided into two groups. There are members and there are associates. Associates can take part in all sorts of wonderful industry seminars and get to meet the players and learn from them, and you can set up your own projects while you're there. And then each year there are 6 selected members who get to create their own work across the year and have it performed here. And if they stay on for a second year, they get to have their piece performed here with LSO players as well, if they want. And I'm keen to stress that it's not orchestral music that you have to create, although you can talk to the orchestral players if you want to. I'll give you a list of some of the current members. There's Rob Shamanik, who's currently creating an installation for the space. There's Helen Papayonou, who created an electro-acoustic work here. Richard Bullen is a composer who created a Hitchcock-style film, which was set in here in real time, which was really quite frightening, with a big sort of opera singer walking all the way around. And then perhaps, which might be of most interest to you, there's Lawrence Osborne and Peter Chennai, who created bronze bells to mathematically correspond to bell curve representation of summer temperatures over the course of the 20th century. And so when all of these 6 bells are struck in order, the bells communicate the story of climate change. And LSO has supported them across the year with various workshops and so the space where I think there's recording sort of studios and space. There's the gamelan room, which some of you will be using, which are really good for rehearsals. And then there's the other half, which is the associates. And I'm one of those people. So I'm a composer. I also perform. I don't know if any of you work in the classical world, but sometimes there's a bit of snobbishness about composers that also perform music as well, though that didn't used to be the case, as I'm sure you can list, lots of people like Mozart or whatever that used to also play music. And so I was very happy this year to work with Chris as an associate of Soundhub, where I mentored some of the digital technology group students. They were students from around the local area, I think from sort of quite young to about 20 or 21. And they created all sorts of wonderful pieces approaching digital technology, from anything from sort of rap music to sort of music concrete. And I helped by arranging the music for them for LSO players. And then I curated their music so that we had a public concert. And I also performed as well to link that together. And I did so with Crudson, who I think did a presentation here yesterday, if any of you were here. He was the guy with the Concertronica, with all the lights and exciting stuff, which is just a MIDI controller, which looks like a folk instrument, which we use to sample sort of field recordings to make new folk music. So that's my experience of Soundhub. It's unlike any scheme for new music that I've seen around, in the sense that it really is truly so diverse. And you're all welcome to apply for it. It's an annual thing, and you just send in your work, and that can be any form. It doesn't have to be scores of music or anything like that. And yeah, please see if you would like to contribute to this, because I think it's really quite unique, and it's a very exciting space as well. Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.